There's a little garage on a small town street. I like to meet my friends there every week, and I know we'll talk about some facts and things, history and science and some crazy shit. Talking it out with Alan, Ben, and Nick, and I know that it's gonna be a weird-ass show. Ooh, insanity abounds. Ooh, the world is spinning round. Now we're gonna break it down. Welcome to Informed and Confused. I'm Ben.
I'm Alan.
And I'm Nick. So what are we supposed to be talking about today? Assassinations, isn't it?
Yeah. People dying, or was this the one? No.
People almost
dying.
dying.
People almost dying.
Well, people are going to die, but not the right people. or maybe the wrong people.
You know,
people are going to shoot at people and miss their targets.
One of my people was definitely present at a murder, but all these people definitely tried to murder somebody.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that qualifies us under the Failed Assassinations title.
Yeah,
yep.
All mine went after presidents.
All mine went after presidents or were part of something that went after presidents.
Tangentially related
to
presidents.
Going after presidents.
Mine are all in the last 50 years. And I guarantee you don't know any of them. We were alive for one of them.
We've been alive for several, just not necessarily ones you picked.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't want to throw shame at the guy who threw a shoe at Bush, because I love that man.
So do I. Proved Bush had mad reflexes.
Okay, I've acknowledged I'm okay with Bush as a human being. I don't agree with most of the decisions he's made in his life, but I'm not going to default him his life for those decisions.
Well, you at least acknowledge he had mad reflexes. He dodged the shit out of that shoe.
I will admit that the Chinese can't trap him.
Okay.
Anyways.
So, who we got first? What failed assassination plots are we talking about today?
Well, we're going to start in
Well, we're going to start chronologically, but we're going to trade off.
Yeah, we're going to trade off here because we're going to make this a little bit of a contest. Ben has not been privy to any of the individuals we're going to talk about.
Nope, definitely coming in cold.
And so Nick and I are going to bounce back and forth. We each have three cases of failed assassinations that we're going to go off. Yeah. And Ben is going to judge these on a series of criterion and pick a winner.
And so our audience knows the criteria that I'm going to be judging these on. Number one is how effective was the assassination? Did they pull it off? In this case, none of them are going to be getting top marks because we're doing all failed assassinations.
Now, is this like a 1 out of 10, a 5-star
I'm going to do all of these 1 out of 10.
Okay.
Just to make it simpler for my drunken brain.
1 being good.
1 being absolute
failure,
10 being success.
10 is bullet in a brain, bomb exploding.
However it happened that they managed to succeed, yes.
Okay.
Second thing I'm judging them is the complexity of the plan. How complex was their plan? Did they just run up and shoot a guy, or did they plan this out intricately? That kind of thing. And
for a given value of intricate.
Right. And for the final metric I'm using is I'm calling it legacy and aftermath. Basically, how this affected everything else. How it.
You don't know any of mine, so I've already lost.
Well, I don't think I know any of yours, so that's also going to be interesting. But what it all really comes down to is we'll be judging what was the best failed assassination attempt and try to rank them in order. So, Alan, I think you said you were going up first?
Yep. Our first one is one that some people probably heard about. Depending on
this one was
history.
Definitely in my history textbook.
Yeah,
it was a passing glance, but it was there.
Although there's a couple of details here I didn't know that I find that are interesting. and that is the attempted assassination of U.S. President Andrew Jackson. He was, in fact, the first president to ever face a attempted assassination that we know of.
Really?
Yep.
Well, he was fairly early on the list.
He was number 7, I believe.
I wanted to say 8, but I trust you way more on this.
No, because it was Van Buren. So
I
think-
trust you so much more than myself on that.
Yeah, no. Excuse me. The attempt took place on January 30th, 1835. The would-be assassin was a man named Richard Lawrence. Was an unemployed house painter. And this is a case of an individual who is just batshit crazy. This guy didn't have a grudge or anything. This man was just mentally ill.
Okay, isn't having a grudge being batshit crazy at the end of the day?
All right, well, I guess technically he did have a grudge. It's just a batshit crazy grudge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what was
It's
said
above
grudge?
and beyond. All right.
Yeah. What is the why? Why did he want to kill Jackson?
He believed that he was King Richard III of England, who, mind you, has been dead for at least a couple hundred years. I
Okay,
think, by
so-
this point.
so he's
say,
a
that
resurrected king.
That was
cool.
like a knights in armor king, wasn't it?
Medieval king, yeah.
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 I believe he's Richard III. Probably comes from the fact that I believe there's a Shakespearean play based on Richard III.
There is.
Yeah,
There
that's
is.
probably where that idea seeped into
I've
his
never
crazy
read
brain.
it because I'm not cultured.
Nor have I. And that he thought he owned a couple of big estates in England, and basically thought that because he was the king, the U.S. government owed him money, and that the only reason he wasn't getting his money was because of Jackson's support for the fight against the Bank of the United States.
Yeah, I was about
at
to
the
say
time.
his sole goal was dismantling the federal bank,
Well,
wasn't
not
it?
his sole goal, but that was one of the big ones. It's one of the things he's probably one of those things he's
Best well
known for. Yeah.
Well, that and atrocities, but go on.
Yeah, but anyways, the attempt takes place, like I said, on January 30th, 1835. It happens at a funeral. It's being held at the Capitol building for South Carolina Representative Warren Davis. He died, and they had a funeral service for him in the house, the actual House chamber. Lawrence waited outside the Capitol building for him, wanted to get him when he was going in, but couldn't get close enough. So waited until he was on his way out. Managed to walk basically right on up to him.
Yeah, this is pre-Secret Service, ain't it?
Yeah, there is no real security here. He pulls a small Derringer pistol, and shoots at him, point blank, and the gun misfires.
Okay, it wasn't that he missed. The gun itself
Yeah, no, it
misfired.
was point blank range. The gun misfired. I believe the cap went.
Well,
the cap sparked.
Derringer's no good past point blank, but
Yeah, the cap sparked, but the bullet didn't discharge.
Okay.
any number of reasons. Low quality powder, could have been damp.
We'll get to that. He then pulls a second gun, identical gun, and it misfires in the same manner. The cap.
Did he just have the Fiat of pistols? What the fuck?
Jackson then shouts at him, "Let me alone! Let me alone! I know where this came from!" And it proceeds to try to beat the crap out of him with his cane.
Wait, tries? So he didn't hit him with the cane, or was he just too enfeebled to do damage?
I believe it's he managed to get to him with the cane, but at the same time, there are people who were attempting to pull the guy away. So it's a question of
I
Okay.
love when stories have because I ended up doing all from the U.S. like citizens intervening to save their president. I love that, especially because I know no one's catching a bullet for Trump. No one is stopping shit. No one.
all right, but no,
Back to the past.
yeah. He like I said, he gets
Can we actually? It was better there.
Alan.
Lawrence gets wrestled to the ground by two individuals, a Navy lieutenant named Thomas Gedney, 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 Gedney.
Okay.
Can't speak.
You all right?
And just a little tongue-tied. And the other individual was Congressman Davy Crockett.
That's
Davy
awesome.
Crockett,
Yeah.
King of the Wild Frontier.
Yep.
The The man who died shitting himself during the Alamo, I do believe. Or I'm confusing him with Jim Bowie. Never
That's
mind.
Jim Bowie. No. The best we know, Crockett got captured and then executed by firing squad. Yeah. So say the reports. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I get those Wild West drunks confused a lot.
Anyways, at his trial.
So he ends up taking 2 shots with 2 different guns. Both of them fail, and then his intended target proceeds to attempt to beat him with his cane.
Yeah,
yep.
and then an American national hero wrestles him to the ground.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Anyways, then we get to his trial, where the prosecuting attorney is Francis Scott Key.
Really? Another famous name.
Yep. If you don't know that is the man who wrote the American national anthem.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew he had a job, like an actual job. I just didn't think, he did anything that mattered.
Well, this is like 20 years after he wrote the anthem. So.
Oh yeah, no,
right.
No, he did that out of boredom. People used to have talents because entertainment wasn't invented.
Yeah. But he's found not guilty by reason of insanity. Took the jury less than 5 minutes. He said a bunch of
as soon as he claims he's a long dead king, I think that kind of
I also
sets
have
it.
a story, and it's great because we're going to be able to end with it. It'll be a great bookend of citizens intervening with a guy who then tries to plead crazy. Mine has a surprise ending, but
all right. Yeah, he and then basically spends the rest of his life in insane asylums. Dies a number of years later. Nothing really happens to him after that. The interesting thing here is what the political fallout, because this is one of the we think our time today is politically polarizing. Jackson's presidency, the time before, right after it was pretty up there in terms of political antagonism.
There's a reason every account, even the good ones, say he was not a nice man.
Well, it's not just him personally, but the animosity he had towards others and his supporters had towards their opponents and vice versa was pretty freaking intense.
Okay.
The sorts of insults that were thrown around were very much on the Trump level.
Okay.
Only just everybody was doing it.
So what you're saying is thank God they didn't have Twitter?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, if they had Twitter, it would have been bad. It would have been real bad. But basically, like when Jackson says to the guy, "I know where this came from," what he means, he's not saying like, "Oh, I know you're the one who shot me." It's, "I know who sent you, you jackass," because he instantly believes that it was the
part of a conspiracy.
Yeah, that his Whig opponents.
Was it?
No, it wasn't.
Oh.
It was a crazy guy, but he didn't know that. He's also just paranoid. Everybody just went paranoid after this.
Hey, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get you.
Not only did he accuse the Whigs, the other political party, he also accused another Democrat. His former vice.
Wasn't the Whigs the party of Washington?
No, the Whig party didn't emerge until after the War of 1812.
Ah, my mistake.
Yeah. Washington was a Federalist. I mean, technically he wasn't a member of any party at all, but he leaned towards the Federalists.
Right.
Yeah.
They didn't have parties at that point.
Well, they did. He just stayed out of it.
Yes, they did. It was called the "Hey, we all love Washington" party.
No, that was just everybody. But that's why
my point. It was a big grand party.
Whole nother conversation into and of itself. Don't get me started. But no. Yeah, he also accused Senator John C. Calhoun.
Yes.
Who was also his former vice president and a Democrat. But just personally did not like they did not like each other. So he accused him strongly enough that Calhoun felt the need to stand in front of the Senate and say, "I didn't do it."
Wow.
Okay, so this crazy guy's attempt actually did have political fallout across the spectrum afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
Because
there were accusations flying back and forth. Actually, another person who got most of the flack was a senator named George Poindexter from Mississippi. It found out that this guy, like I said, he was an artwork painter. Well, some months ago, whatever, this guy had actually done paint work for the senator. Now, they've investigated the hell out of it. There's never any evidence, that it was anything more than a coincidence. But at the time, it was enough that they attributed to him actually losing his re-election campaign because of the accusations of his connections to this guy.
Okay.
Yeah, and that became a thing for a while. Eventually, it died down, and people moved on to other shit, as they tend to do.
Yeah.
But
Well,
for a while, that was
the
like
thing,
the
in
big
case of
thing.
far-reaching implications. I'm sure a lot of people didn't see this.
And being part of an assassination plot was pretty much par for the course for the other accusations that were being thrown around by these guys.
It's like being Gotham DA. If someone's not trying to kill you, you're not doing your job.
Yeah. Now we get to the issue of the guns. It's the big issue.
The Derringers, yeah.
The guy shot twice with two different guns, point blank, and they both misfired. What the hell happened? We have one report we have from the time period comes from Senator Thomas Hart Benton, who wrote that, quote, pistols were examined and found to be well loaded and fired afterwards without fail, carrying their bullets true and driving them through inch boards at 30 feet. So they tested these guns at the time, and they immediately started working.
So probably something wrong with the ammunition there.
Yeah.
See, I like to think it was just like two guys, not even cops. They just picked them up and were like, hey, hand me a cap. Put one on, and then it's just... Shit!
Yeah.
Check the other one. Check the other one.
About 100, what was it?
And no one cared.
100 years later, back in the 1930s, because they had these guns in the museum, they pulled them out and actually tested them again.
And they shot
it
again?
Immediately worked after 100 years.
He just had some bad luck that day.
The one theory is
primer caps must have been bad.
Well, no, the caps actually sparked. Both guns generated a spark. The powder didn't go off. The theory is, it's believed that it was really misty out that day. Misty
powder.
And damp, and that the powder probably got just damp enough in both guns that it didn't go off. Even so, a statistician calculated the odds, even accounting for the mistiness, and the odds of both guns misfiring in that scenario was 1 out of 125,000.
Wow.
So, yeah, he
either got really
lucky.
unlucky or really lucky, depending on how you look at it.
And people at the time, his supporters used that as a thing of, he divine protection. It's the divine will that President Jackson live.
Of course.
But, so that is the assassination attempt on Andrew Jackson.
That's going to rate Richard Lawrence pretty high on the effectiveness and aftermath scale, very low on the complexity. I mean, he just walked up and tried to shoot. But pretty decent scoring-wise. What do you got for me, Nick?
Well, I don't know how mine's going to compare. I think mine's a little funnier, but, well, not at first. It's awful at first. I've got Miss Lynette from, a.k.a. Squeaky.
Squeaky?
Yes, Squeaky.
That was her nickname, Squeaky?
Squeaky. She was a member of the Manson family.
Oh, wait, really?
Okay,
this now just went up in my interest level.
She meets Manson leaving a music gig in 1967 when she's 19 after being kicked out of her parents' house, joins the Manson family. I believe we all know those stories and how that shit fucking went. Helter Skelter, start a race war, partner with the Aryan Brotherhood. Speaking of a partnership with the Aryan Brotherhood, because I have to mention Nazis at least once an episode. In 1972, she was involved in the murder of a family. The 8-month-old baby was found alive, but everybody else. No.
But that's not the attempt we're talking about here.
No. But in that murder, the first body they found in a shallow grave because the hand was sticking out.
So among other things, she wasn't good at burying people.
Well, this was like a crew of like 4 people, and
geez.
Yeah, they really did nothing to cover their tracks. And then they found the wife's body in the basement, just riddled with bullet holes. But Squeaky, she got let go because of lack of evidence. I mean, they had a Nazi, so I mean...
Right. Okay, so which president did she try to kill?
She went after Ford 3 years later, September 5th, 1975, in Sacramento. She was dressed in a red robe and approached Ford when he was at a park in order to confront him.
Happy birthday, Mr. President.
No. In order to confront him about the plight of the California redwood.
Okay. On the surface, that seems reasonable.
Well, at the time, logging industry was going after him, and
Yeah.
it's not really a renewable resource.
Okay.
But not only did she have this red dress, she had a M1911.
Yeah.
A standard military model 1911. I've seen a picture of the gun. Looks like it's a long slide. That is like an insanely common weapon that has been sold off in surplus so many times. I think the final number on that is like the U.S. made like 7 million of them over its entire production lifespan.
Okay.
And they're still made like privately, like stupidly common. Like it's in every gun.
Okay.
Which I'd like to illustrate the point of how easy it is to get guns.
Right.
Anyways.
Okay. So she walked up in a red robe with a gun.
Yep. Confronts him, gets angry, pulls the gun on him, and she is tackled by Secret Service fucking immediately because this is 1975. Kennedy's already been dead a while.
Yeah.
They don't
Secret
play
Service is a
games
thing.
with this.
Yeah.
What I find fucking fascinating about this, a standard 1911 is a 7+1. You can get 1 in the chamber, and if you really jam things together, you can still have 7 in the clip. There were 4 rounds in the clip, and there wasn't 1 in the chamber.
Huh.
And by all accounts, all she did was pull the gun. She didn't pull the slide back to load it. So this is an empty gun functionally.
That's definitely going to lower her effectiveness score.
But it is funny.
Oh, it definitely is funny.
When she was finally in court, she really did nothing to help her defense, and they were super on about presidential assassination at the time for various obvious reasons. And Nixon had actually been gone at. I considered doing one of the attempts on him, but moving on from that, she actually claimed she was the one who removed the round from the chamber. And the funny thing is, when authorities searched her home, they did find 1 round of unspent ammunition on the bathroom floor.
Who wants to bet she was trying to cock it and accidentally ejected it?
Well, that's just it. If the clip was in it, it would have fed the next round.
Yeah.
Like,
No, that it was before she put the clip. I don't know.
yeah, no, I mean maybe, but
Okay.
yeah, no, like just none of her methodology makes sense. She's doing this for the trees. Like,
Yeah.
Okay. Any aftermath? Anything come out of this, or did it die down pretty quickly after court?
I mean, she was just kind of a wackadoo. What's more impressive is what happened 17 days later, but it's not my turn.
Oh, that's a different one. All right.
Yeah, Ford got went at more than once.
Okay. Yeah, pretty medium along the board. Absolutely nothing for aftermath because, as you said, she.
I mean,
nothing really came of
she
it.
went to prison for the rest of her life. She got transferred to a federal supermax after she killed another inmate with a hammer. That's what I got for her. I mean,
okay. Cool.
She faced punishment for her actions. Whether you want to debate the efficacy of life imprisonment for not technically pointing a loaded gun at the president, she's a murderer at somewhere along the line either way.
Well, from what you've
And
said, several
Manson
points
family.
along the way.
Manson family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, all right. What you got for me, Alan?
All right. The next one we got is the attempted assassination of U.S. Secretary of State William Seward. Now, we said these are all basically related to presidential assassinations. How is this one?
Seward?
Well, Seward.
Seward.
S-E-W-A-R-D. This is, and again,
Should I start whistling Dixie as appropriate background?
if you want to. I'm not going to object to that. I like that. I like that too.
Well, I mean, it's too much cross noise. But
Okay, so
Anyways, he was part of the assassination plot that killed Abraham Lincoln.
okay.
The conspirators.
Sic
led by
Semper
Booth-
Tyrannis?
Yes, that is what Booth says when he jumps off the balcony. Thus always the tyrants.
Okay, so what's this guy's name?
Well, several people, because it's the same group that conspired to kill Lincoln. They conspired to kill Secretary of State Seward as well, and also Vice President Andrew Johnson. Technically, he doesn't count as an attempted assassination because the guy who was going to do it never actually made the attempt.
Backed out.
Got
cold feet.
So,
the Lincoln assassination is a series of fucked decisions.
Yeah.
Right.
So the people we're talking about here is obviously John Wilkes Booth, who I'm not going to go into that or any of the Lincoln stuff because that's a successful assassination, which is not part of this topic.
Right.
And B, everybody knows that, and that can be its own thing later on.
I do have a mildly funny John Wilkes Booth story. We had a guy who came to my middle school specifically to talk about the assassination of Lincoln, like he was a historical reenactor.
Mm-hmm.
And when the floor opened to questions, nobody was willing to be the first question, so I raised my hand and I asked what caliber the gun that killed Lincoln was, and everyone looked at me like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?"
It's an intriguing question.
Yeah.
I was curious. Like, I know firearms didn't used to be, like, standardized, and, like, it was probably some kind of muzzle loading contraption, and, like, was this thing, like, made in a, like, somebody's backyard, or was this from a major manufacturer? I'm curious what the fuck happened.
Huh?
Yeah. Anyways, so Booth was the leader of the conspiracy. Then you have George Azarat, who is a Prussian immigrant. All things.
Of all things?
Well, Prussian
you
immigrants
sound
weren't
like
exactly...
you don't like Prussian immigrants.
Well, Prussian immigrants just weren't a common group, to my knowledge, in that time period.
So Prussian immigrants can't immigrate? Is that what you're telling me?
No, I'm just saying...
No, he's saying that there wasn't a large percentage of Prussian immigrants at that
it's not
time
like saying
in
he was
history.
an Irish immigrant.
I'm trying
or
to
something
understand
like
why that's so important to him.
It's not important. I just find that as an odd...
Interesting
notable.
note.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He owned a carriage repair business in Maryland. Then you have David Harold.
Yeah, you said that like it was a question.
That was not my intention.
Well, now I'm
so
curious.
Harold,
did he own a carriage repair businst?
Yes.
Are you saying Prussian immigrants are too sneaky to be left with someone's carriage? I'm trying to understand.
David
here,
Harold
man.
Was a pharmacist assistant and a friend of Booth. And then you have Lewis Powell, who's the man who actually attempts to kill Seward, who is a ex-Confederate soldier who deserted the Confederate Army in January of '65, and met up with Booth's group in Maryland right before everything went down, or right before they started plotting. Because I believe he was also part of the kidnapping plot. They had originally planned to kidnap Lincoln. And that never went anywhere.
Well, they probably abandoned lots of
They
plans.
never would have gotten him out of the theater.
Well, it wasn't going to be at the theater. It was going to be
somewhere else.
somewhere else. This was months before, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this group decides they're going to kill Seward. How?
Well, they're gonna kill Lincoln. They're gonna kill Seward, and they're gonna kill Johnson all at the same time on the same night.
Oh, okay.
And obviously Booth had the little pocket derringer. Each of the other, the two guys who were actually going to do the killing were Azarat, who was going to kill Johnson, and Powell was going to kill Seward, along with Harold. Harold was going to just be kind of his wingman. Backup. Both of them had a pistol and a Bowie knife.
Okay. In case the gun doesn't work, you can always stab him.
Bowie knives.
Like I said, Azarat was supposed to kill Johnson. He had rented a room directly above Johnson's at the Kirkwood House in Washington, where Johnson was staying. The night of the assassination, though, he got drunk, presumably out of nerves, and then just proceeded to wander around the city, got a room at another hotel, and went to sleep.
You're telling me you wouldn't get drunk before murder?
He just got drunk, wandered off, and passed out.
Who murders sober? That sounds
That's
awful.
great.
If you're blackout drunk, at least you don't remember it. God.
Harold escorts Powell over to Seward's house because Powell didn't know the city. Harold did, so Harold knew where everything was, how to get around. About 10 after 10, which I forget exactly what time Lincoln was shot. They may know off the top of their heads.
Nope. I do not.
No clue.
It's close. It's like somewhere between 9 and 11, I think.
Sounds like they planned this so that it would all happen as closely together.
Yeah, that was the idea.
All right.
He knocks
I
on
like to think there was a sequence where they all synchronized watches, but because they were hand-built, hand-wound watches, all of them kept different time no matter what the fuck you did.
Probably.
That's just the fucking nature of watches. Like, mechanical watches are cool, but
that's
they're
how
terribly
cogs
flawed.
work.
Anyways.
So they knock on the door.
So Paul knocks on the door, claiming to have been sent by Seward's doctor, and then he has some medicine for him, and he has to go up there and show him how to properly take this medication. The servant...
You are so well researched.
Thank you.
That's Alan.
Yeah.
He
I know.
does good
that's
research.
That's my part.
I went for, like, the craziest fucking failed attempts I could find. He's, like, giving a dissertation. Like, god damn it. I'm going to lose.
That's why he's informed and we're confused.
We do equal out to 1.5 rational human beings.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is the stick. Anyways, so they go to the door. William Bell, Seward's maitre d'.
Okay.
I don't know what that actually is, but that's the title I gave him.
Probably essentially like butler or doorman type
like
deal.
Some sort of servant.
Maitre d' tends to be a...
he was African-American, so he couldn't have been that swanky of a
It was
job.
nicer than boy. I understand.
Yeah, okay. Anyways, he doesn't really buy it, by the excuse. He's kind of like, well. So Powell basically just says, fuck it, and just kind of pushes past him into the house. And charges upstairs gets up to the 3rd floor where Seward is, and is met by one of his sons, Frederick, who stops him, and he tells the same story about the medicine. He's suspicious. He's just like, oh, my dad's asleep right now. You have to come back later. At which point his sister comes out of his dad's room and says, oh, Fred, Dad's awake. So now Powell knows exactly where he is. Didn't know that beforehand. At which point Powell turns to go like he's going to go downstairs and leave, and then immediately turns around, pulls a gun. His gun misfires.
A lot of misfires in your stories.
Yeah.
My next two at least got rounds off.
Yeah. So, although in this case, he then proceeds to basically hold the gun like a club and
attempts to
beat
club
Frederick
him with
Seward
it
until he's unconscious. Beats him pretty bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. At this point, Bell, who hears what's going on, starts yelling, "Murder! Murder!" is just running out of the house, which scares Harold off. So Harold.
So the backup guy just is like, nope, not going to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, God, there's a lady. I'm not shooting a lady.
All right. Now, eventually Powell will push into Seward's room and pull out his Bowie knife and start stabbing him repeatedly in the neck and the face. Now, at some point...
Does actually draw blood.
Yeah, at some point in this process, he also stabs Seward's daughter, Fanny, his other son, Augustus, his bodyguard, Army Sergeant George Robinson.
He is just a stabbing fool.
A male nurse and Major William Seward Jr.
I find it hilarious that they have to specify it's a male nurse. You know that was just them throwing shade at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways.
Wait, were women allowed to be nurses yet? Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just an unnecessary detail.
Actually, I believe the Civil War was part of how you started transitioning to the idea of female nurses. I believe. I could be wrong on that. It might have been the Crimean War that really started, but I digress. Anyways, that list of individuals, I tried looking up like exactly what happened play by play, but I got different versions of events, so I can't tell you exactly in what order they all got stabbed.
Okay. But he did stab a lot of people.
Over the course of this whole process, going up there, stabbing Seward, and getting out, he stabbed that group of individuals at some point.
And he did actually get out. He wasn't tackled and arrested or something there.
Well, because he wrestled around with a couple, I think the bodyguard and one of the sons for a while, in which point they got stabbed. But one of them tried to go for a pistol, and they gave him just enough time to get on stairs.
Disengage and run.
He then runs into a State Department messenger, a guy named Emmerich Hansel, who he just stabs in the back. Just runs up to him, stabs him in the back, then runs out of the house shouting, "I'm mad, I'm mad."
Going for that insanity defense.
Apparently, it didn't work.
How long did it take for them to catch up with him?
We'll get to that in a minute, but first thing is Seward. This guy was right there at his bedside, stabbed him in the face and the neck. How did this guy not die?
Missed the jugular.
Well,
couldn't get an instant death, and from what you said, there were medical people inside of the...
No, he got everybody out of the way and had a clear shot and stabbed the crap out of this guy. Right there. He had a clear shot.
Bowie knife's a big fucking knife, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did he survive? Well, 9 days earlier, Seward had been in a carriage accident and busted his jaw. So his doctor had put a splint device on the side of his face.
Armor!
That deflected the blood. He got cut up in the face. I believe he ended up carrying a scar for the rest of his life. A big scar. And on his neck and
it's
upper
not like they
chest.
had anything for that back then.
Right.
Yeah.
But essentially, he had a
protected his
gorget
jugular
on.
artery. He could not get past the splint. So
Nice.
That ended up saving his life.
He didn't think to go for the chest?
Yeah.
Sounds like his chest was wide open.
Well, he hit him in the chest, but it sounds like
he
was
missed.
doing it frantically, so he probably just deflected off his ribs. He was trying to go for the neck.
This
but
just seems like a
deflected off the
bargain
ribs.
bin assassination, honestly.
Well, these guys weren't
Like, A for enthusiasm, he stabbed the fuck out of a lot of people, but...
He is my highest rank thus far for effectiveness. He did, in fact, stab a bunch of people.
Yeah. Everybody else recovers. The worst off is his son Frederick. Ends up in a coma for 2 months.
That's the one that he got beaten with the gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he eventually does
Pistol
recover.
whipping will fuck you up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Beaten into a coma.
No, it's metal.
Yeah.
Yeah. After he runs out, again, he doesn't have Harold with him anymore, so he has no freaking clue where he is.
No clue where he is. No backup.
He wanders around with his bloody clothes on, manages to make it out of the city, makes it all the way to the home of Mary Surratt, just as the police are questioning her for Booth's attempt.
Okay.
So walks into the room with bloody outfit on.
Where the police are.
The police then proceed to arrest both of them. Harold will eventually meet up with Booth and will travel with him along his, if you know the story of Booth's escape, and will end up being caught with Booth at the barn. Only Harold, gives up rather than letting them burn, light the barn on fire.
Right.
And then Azeroth was eventually apprehended at his cousin's home in Germantown in Maryland. The bartender at the place he was staying originally got suspicious when he had asked about Johnson prior to,
trying to gather
day.
some information on his target.
Yeah, so when Lincoln got assassinated, the bartender got suspicious of that, and he called the police.
Okay.
And they went and investigated, found his home, found, I forget what it was, but there was like a checkbook or something like that, some sort of documentation that had Booth's name on it at his house. And then they went looking for him and found him at his cousin's house. So they all get apprehended. Obviously, Booth dies in his escape attempt, Paul, Harold, and Azeroth, along with Mary Surratt, will all be put before a military tribunal and hung. They're the four who die in the assassination. Others are arrested, thrown in jail. Dr. Mudd, the famous one.
Right.
Yeah. and obviously we know the aftermath of all of that.
Although you could argue most of the aftermath was because of Booth and Lincoln rather than these guys in Seward. But there's definitely aftermath that came out of that attempt.
Like one of the biggest what ifs. This is one of these ones that has a big kind of what would have happened if they had succeeded. If either Johnson had been killed or Johnson and Seward, especially, the next guy in line who would have become president, because Johnson obviously took over when Lincoln died. If he had been killed, Seward would have become president, I believe. And then if he had died, the person who was actually next in line at the time was the president pro tem of the Senate, who I believe would have been a radical Republican.
Which is who they wanted to install.
Well, no. Exactly.
Okay.
They weren't trying to install anybody. He just wanted to kill.
Okay.
You got to remember, a lot of people who were mad about this assassination were people in the South.
That's right, and I have to remember, because this was Lincoln's Republican Party, it's a very different Republican Party than the one we're dealing with today.
People in the South were mad at him because they thought, oh my God, what are they going to do to us? Because they had lost the war at this point. What the frickin' hell are they going to do to us now? One of ours is trying to kill the president.
Right.
What the hell kind of wrath are we going to have brought down on us? It's generally believed that if this had happened and had been the other guy, Reconstruction would have been a lot harsher. Without Johnson there, Reconstruction would have been a lot harsher. There would have been a lot more nooses around a lot more Confederate necks, which could have led to any number of different.
In the defense of that line of thinking, they were traitors.
True,
yeah.
But you could say things would have been better off because there would have been harsher enforcement of civil rights legislation for longer. Although that goes into other presidencies past that point.
And that's all what if anyways.
Or, because this was a thing, that could have pushed a lot of Confederates who laid down their arms relatively peacefully because of
could have
the
caused
amnesty.
a second uprising.
Guerrilla warfare. That was a lot of those guys considered starting guerrilla wars, a guerrilla war, and for the most part, that
the lost cause myth is a popular narrative.
Yeah, that never caught on as a thing, largely because the average soldier got to go home. It was a relatively, calm. Other than giving rights to African Americans, the ex-Confederates were treated fairly peacefully.
They were brought back into the family.
Yeah, the idea was bring the country back together. If that had taken a different mentality, that kind of led to some nasty repercussions. That kind of led to a lot of bloodshed that went on for a long time. But yeah, so that is. The attempted assassination of William Seward.
And that one actually scores reasonably high across the board, so that might end up being our top, but we got 3 more to go.
All right, so I've got Sarah Kane Moore. She was a 45-year-old married woman, and I didn't write this down, so I may get confused. It was either 5 kids and 4 divorces, or 5 divorces and 4 kids.
Either way, lots of divorces and kids.
This is not the person you think is going to try to kill the president.
Right.
By the way, this is 17 days after the last attempt on Ford.
Okay, so this is another one against Ford.
Yeah. Nary a fortnight has passed.
Okay.
So Sarah Moore was an FBI informant.
Okay.
All right.
Are either of you two aware of the Patty Hearst incident at all?
I'm aware of it. I don't know the details.
Okay. The basic thing here is that Patty Hearst was kidnapped by a left-wing extremist group called the Symbionese Liberation Army. They weren't an army. They were probably like 20 people at max. But
groups like that like to call themselves an army to make it sound bigger and more important.
They kidnapped Patty and successfully ransomed her father into setting up a social welfare program called PIN, People in Need. It was a food supply service.
Doesn't she join them?
Yes, she does.
Yeah,
she does.
Interesting.
But Moore was a FBI informant working at PIN as a volunteer bookkeeper for the organization.
Okay.
So she was funneling the information she had access to the FBI. Earlier that year, the Secret Service had evaluated her and determined she posed no threat. Now, the day before the assassination attempt, she's picked up by the police. She's got a .44 Magnum revolver that she's not supposed to have and 113 rounds of ammunition.
That's a lot of ammo for a revolver.
Yeah, no, that's some bullets.
Yeah. How many times was she planning to reload?
I don't know.
She was just headed to the range, pop off a couple hundred rounds. You know.
I mean, it can be done. If you're good at it, it can be done. Once the police take that, she gets a used .38. I don't know if it was the same day or the morning before the attempt the next day.
But sometime between when she was arrested the previous day and the attempt, she acquires another gun.
Charged with possession of an illegal firearm.
She then gains another illegal firearm.
Well, no, I'm pretty sure it was a legal firearm, but just no one gave a shit.
Right.
But yeah, she gets a used .38.
Okay.
And she's confident that she can do it even though it's not, the gun she had. Next day, she goes to a public event where the president is leaving after a speaking engagement. One of those things where he just kind of goes out in the crowd, shakes hands, political glad
kisses the babies, all that stuff, yeah.
Yeah. So she shoots at him from across the street through the crowds and gets a shot off. The only reason she missed is that the sights were misaligned. When they evaluated the gun afterwards, at the range she was shooting, the sight picture was 6 centimeters off of center.
Wow.
She came damn close to hitting him.
Yeah, that is.
The only reason she did not get a second shot off, an ex-Marine named Oliver Sipple, I'm not sure, Sipple.
Okay.
But yeah, grabbed the gun, wrestled it away from her, and tackled her to the ground.
Okay.
That first shot did hit someone on a ricochet. It was a cab driver, but he was okay.
Okay.
Yeah, no, she didn't kill anybody, but god damn was she close. And it was only due to the intervention of a private citizen that she was stopped.
But she definitely got shots off, even though shot didn't hit anyone.
Yeah, no, she was damn close. She got sentenced to life, served 32 years, and was released.
Okay.
Once she was interviewed as a old woman, 77 years old, they asked her if it was worth it. Well, at the time, they asked her if it was worth it, and she said yes and no. And it was a case of, is it worth throwing away my life on a failed attempt? No. Do I regret trying to change the world? No.
Also, no.
Yeah, no, it's a case of, I'm not ashamed of what I've done.
She's just upset she failed.
Pretty much.
Okay.
As an old woman, she came to the conclusion of, it was not worth trying to change the world through violent means.
Okay.
So, not exactly a change of heart, but very much a change of philosophy. I feel there's something to be learned from that ethos.
Okay.
What was the date on this?
Let's see, September 5th, 17 days later. So either the 22nd or the 23rd.
What year?
75.
75? Okay.
Yeah.
I was just trying to determine whether or not Rockefeller had been put in as vice president yet. That would determine who would have succeeded him if it had
at the
succeeded.
time.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't know.
No, I checked. Rockefeller was they put Rockefeller in 74, so
okay.
we would have just gone to Rockefeller.
All right. Well, she rates pretty high on the effectiveness. She got there. She took a shot before being taken down.
Yeah, and there are multiple biographies about this woman. She's a fairly examined subject, but no one ever told me President Ford got shot at in history class.
Yeah.
Let alone twice.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Well, reasonably low on complexity from the way you said it. She just kind of...
She formulated a plan. She practiced. She had a weapon. Planning went into this, and the only reason she failed is because she was arrested the day before and had to go with a .38 that she didn't know.
And hadn't had time to sight in and adjust. That probably has a lot to do with it. Was just
even if
new
you don't
gun
adjust,
that she
even
hadn't
if you
practiced
don't
with.
Adjust the sights, if you know, it swings left.
Well, right. She just hadn't had a chance to learn the new gun, and that's really why she missed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think most assassination attempts, if they don't actually kill somebody or at least put a bullet in somebody tend to get glossed over by history.
Right.
Unless there's some sort of big fallout from it or whatever.
It's just not as dramatic. It's like why there's conspiracy theories about around John Hinckley. It's because the small explanation of what happened and why it failed isn't satisfying for something as grand as the potential death of a president. And Reagan was loved enough in his time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
and he came close. He was
fairly
touch
low
and
on
go for a
aftermath.
while.
This is another instance of this is damn fucking close.
It sounds like she just got caught, went to prison, served her time, and then came out with a, if not change of heart, at least a new perspective.
Well, I'd like to point out a life sentence is 25 years, and they kept her 7 years after that. But there's, from what I could find, it seems she was a model prisoner by most accounts. Like, I feel this is...
She went and served her time.
Well, I feel this is also good evidence for arguments about prison as a place of reform, not punishment. I mean, this is one of those things of magnitude of crime should determine magnitude of punishment.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you don't punish attempted assassination. I'm saying...
That, too, is a whole different discussion about our country's prison system, but...
Yeah, that's a whole series of discussions.
That's
it
my
really
point.
is.
I feel there's a warm fuzzy here. She gets to see her children and grandchildren. She doesn't die in a hole. She didn't kill anyone. Did she fuck up? Yes, epically. Did she deserve to die in a hole for it? No,
and she didn't.
I feel this one's got a happy ending as close as you can get.
As far as
to
you
on
can
this
get
topic.
when we're talking about assassins.
Yeah, I think Sarah's nice. She died in 2007, but...
Okay, well, interesting at least. All right, what you got for your last one, Alan?
Our last one is President-elect Franklin Roosevelt. This happened in the time period between his getting elected and him taking office.
I feel like... yeah.
Okay.
The Delano.
Yeah. This happened on February 15th, 1933. And for those of you asking, well, wait a minute, isn't inauguration in January? This was before they changed that.
Okay.
Our political system does change, contrary to what some politicians tell you. Shit's not always ironclad.
Well, that's kind of the purpose of having a bunch of politicians, is so that if a law becomes outdated, they can.
Yeah, but the
adjust
authoritarian
it
in chief doesn't like that.
All right. The assassin in this case is a man named Giuseppe Zangara. Zangara. Was an Italian immigrant and unemployed bricklayer.
Can you give me a quick spelling on his last
name? What way are
name?
you a bricklayer?
That was his profession. That's what he did for a living until he
But if
was
he's
out of work.
unemployed,
He was looking for work as a bricklayer.
Before he was unemployed,
That's
he
what
was
his
a
skill set
bricklayer.
is.
then he's an aspiring bricklayer.
Well, he
now,
had been-
now he's just
Or a
indigent.
previous
He
bricklayer.
was a bricklayer and then lost his job.
Yes, but he is presently indigent.
Okay, so Giuseppe, what was his last name?
Zangara. Zangara.
Zangara.
Not
Okay.
sure if I'm pronouncing that right or not. Probably not. It's Italian, so it's...
I thought you were.
Okay, so Giuseppe.
I am, but I'm just not taking the time and effort to...
Let's just call him Giuseppe for now, then.
I refer to him as Zangara the whole time.
Okay, that's fine.
Anyways. On February 15th, Roosevelt is giving an impromptu speech in Bayfront Park in Miami. He's visiting Miami.
How impromptu can it be when they had to plan how they moved that man?
He was in a car. There was a crowd. He sat up on the back of the car and started talking.
Okay, that's how they did it.
Apparently, he did that a lot. It was a way to avoid podiums, and he also just kind of let his legs hang down.
They just drive around places. He'd get out of the car, sit on it, and be like, "Hey guys, listen to me." Campaign speech.
I knew he did a bunch of train campaigns too, where he just came out the back door on the last car and addressed people. I know that was a big thing he did.
Apparently, because it's easier for him to prop up on the back of the car than it is stand at a podium.
I was just having trouble picturing him going through a crowd glad-handing. That's why I was trying to get this right.
So Zangara finds a spot about 25 feet from Roosevelt, from the car.
Now, if this was kind of a impromptu, spur of the moment thing, Zangara must have just been kind of.
Yeah, he lived in Miami, and he just happened to be there.
Target of convenience rather than a in-depth plot.
He had been planning wanting to kill Roosevelt or somebody. We'll get into his motivation in a minute.
Okay.
So presumably he heard about Roosevelt's visit, which was a publicly announced thing, and he went to see.
Convenient opportunity.
Yeah, the gathering with him coming there was a planned thing. It's just him stopping and giving a speech was not
added
a planned
to
thing.
The plan. Yeah.
How impromptu it was, I don't know. Whether he had, made that plan when he, got into town or right then and there in that moment, they don't really say. But bottom line is, he's on top of the car. He's giving a speech. Zangara is there. He's got a pistol. He's got a revolver. Now, because the guy's only 5'1", he couldn't see over the head of this woman who was sitting in front of him, named Lillian Cross. So he has to stand up on this wobbly-ass metal folding chair in order to be able to see.
He stands up on the chair.
Right.
Wonderful.
To be able to see over her head. She presumably had one of those big, fancy, old-timey hats
big,
on.
tall hat.
Yeah. And after he waits till Roosevelt finishes his speech, and then he shouts out, "Too many people are starving," and fires a .32 caliber revolver at him. The first shot misses.
Okay.
At which point, the woman in front of him, Cross, and some other people start grab him by the arm. At which point, he just starts firing off blindly.
Randomly.
Just boom, 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 boom. Fires the other 4 shots.
Okay.
Go up. Roosevelt never gets hit, but he does hit. Was it? Yeah. All 4 of the other random shots
did hit audience members.
Do hit 4 other people.
Okay.
Chicago Mayor Anton Cermak, who was visiting with Roosevelt, one of his bodyguards, William Sennett, Mrs. Joseph H. Gill. Presumably her first name is not Joseph, but that's just the old-timey way they referred to married women. By their Mrs.
By their
husband's name. I don't know why the article I read decided to do that, but maybe that's just the only record they have of the woman's name from back then. The
wife of Joseph Gill.
Yeah, is all they have. But and then Miss Margaret Curis are all hit. Mayor Cermak and Gill are the 2 who were seriously wounded. They have life-threatening injuries. The others were relatively minor wounds. Several men will tackle Zangara to the ground, and they basically are ready to beat the crap out of the guy, except Roosevelt tells them to stop. Stop, let the cops deal with him.
It's actually pretty impressive when the audience is willing to beat a guy to death for trying to kill a incumbent. Or not
call that impressive? Trump supporters would happily murder you. Are you shitting me?
Anyways, he gets taken down to the Dade County Jail, and he confesses. This guy makes no bones about what he did, why he did it. Says, quote,
caught in the act.
Yeah, quote, I have the gun in my hand. I kill kings and presidents first, and next all capitalists.
All of them?
All of them, apparently.
All of them?
All of them.
Yay! Not an incredibly complex plan, but he made it at least a bit effective.
He also tells
the key to a good plan is being simple enough to execute.
Very much so.
When the FBI started interrogating him, he tells them he did it because of his chronic stomach pain. He did, from the age of 6, he had something wrong with his stomach where he constantly had really bad stomach pain. He had an operation to have it, dealt with. Presumably, they think it actually made it worse.
As surgery tended to back then.
Yeah, when they did his autopsy, eventually, they think it had something to do with his gallbladder.
Okay.
some sort of issue or whatever. But yeah, but because of that pain or whatever, that drove him
He decided that that was a good enough reason to go out and kill capitalists.
Apparently. That's
Okay.
He pleads guilty to 4 counts of attempted murder and is sentenced to 80 years. As he leaves the courtroom, he says, 4 times 20 is 80. Oh, judge, don't be stingy. Give me 100 years.
Taunting the judge.
Yeah, this guy's got
surprisingly common when it comes down to murder charges.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, I've only got one more quote from this guy, but there are others. This dude was just had some gems when he was just. Yeah.
Hey, it's better to burn out than to fade away, man.
So, did he end up dying in prison?
Well, what happens is on March 6th of that year, 2 days after Roosevelt actually takes the oath, Mayor Cermak dies of his wounds.
Okay.
He'd been gut shot. So they then go ahead and they recharge him now with 1 case of first-degree murder.
Okay. It's not double jeopardy?
No, it's a different charge.
Oh,
not attempted murder.
Okay.
Also, even though he wasn't the intended target, and as it turns out, apparently his death wasn't 100% due to the gunshot wound. There was some sort of malpractice issue involved.
Again, doctors of that era.
Because he died at least in part as a result of an attempted crime due to, I think they call it transferable intent is the legal principle. He's still liable as if he were actually trying to kill him, so they can charge him with this. They charge him with first-degree murder. He pleads guilty again, and now he's sentenced to death.
Okay.
He only spends, I think it was 6 days or something like that on death row. He gets executed on the 20th.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm sure the fact that he was emphatically confessing his own guilt,
right,
had something to do with it. But
he was happy and proud to have tried killing people, and
I mean, he's got nothing on the efficiency of Jack Ruby, but still.
He's furious when he finds out that there won't be cameras at his execution.
He wanted to go out a star.
Yeah. And his last words were, and this is basically just the last half of a larger rant. I didn't want to go with the whole thing.
Yeah, don't platform a murderer. I get you.
Yeah, but he goes, Viva Italia! Goodbye to all poor peoples everywhere. Lousy capitalists. No picture. Capitalists. No one here to take my picture. All capitalists, lousy bunch of crooks. Push the button. Go ahead. Push the button. Which is like, if you're going to go out.
That's a decent way to go out if you're going to go out. Screaming at your executioner to hit the button.
Yeah, no, that's... But, and they pushed the button, and the execution worked. He died by electric chair. Now, the thing later on, and I couldn't find exactly when this, started. I think it started, rumors of this started relatively close to after the assassination, but it didn't get, formalized till a guy whose name I forgot to write down, which I'm so upset about, wrote a book in the 90s, or wrote some articles or something. I forget. Couldn't trace out exactly which it was. Were about a conspiracy theory that the Chicago mayor was actually the intended target the entire time, and that this guy was working for what's his name, Frank Nitti, who was the mob boss in Chicago.
Oh, of course.
And that was the actual thing was it was a mob hit.
Yeah. On
the mayor of Chicago, which there was shit going on between him and the mob at the time. I tried looking up to see how valid this was. Looking at the biography of the guy who wrote the story, he's legit. He won a Pulitzer for work he did in Vietnam.
Okay.
Worked for a legit paper agency. Did a lot of work all the way up through the Gulf War.
Yeah.
Legit guy. But when I looked up the actual article, I'm pretty sure the websites I ended up on were not legit. Were conspiracy theory websites. One of them was about him being assassinated by the mob or something like that, which was weird because
admittedly, the mob did do a lot of assassinations, but
which it looked like it was talking about him being assassinated by the mob like decades earlier than he actually died, because he only died in like 2002 or something like that.
Oh, okay.
So trying to research further started leading me down shady shit. So I'm not sure what the validity of that theory is.
Yeah.
Understandable.
The article quoted what sounded like valid, because the guy in the book. The one article that mentions the guy writing the book says that he actually looked up like old Secret Service records.
Yeah.
And there are quotes of reports of interviews that they did that imply that, the people at the time thought that he was actually the intended target, and that there were quotes from the assassin who implied that no, he was working for the mob, evidence he worked for the mob or something like that. But again, the actual quotes in that I found came off of websites I do not trust for a minute.
Okay.
So,
fair enough.
Yeah. Either way, it's.
Yeah. No. Definitely a possibly effective attempt, even though he failed in the presidential.
He killed somebody.
Assassination. He did in fact kill somebody.
And his stated goal was to kill all capitalists and government officials.
He got
killed
one.
The government official. Wasn't the one he was aiming for.
But he got
or
one.
It was. Maybe not. So yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
Now
you take the good, you take the bad.
Yeah. The one other thing I want to mention is another what if. Roosevelt being killed by this guy, although in a second attempt the following year, is actually the point of divergence for The Man in the High Castle.
Oh.
The novel in Amazon TV show.
Interesting.
That is the thing that sets off that entire universe.
Oh, okay.
So in terms of,
I have not watched any of that, but definitely
it's good.
interesting.
The ending is very lackluster.
Yeah, the book is probably better. It's also
the
very
books
different.
Usually are.
The book's actually fairly different. Looking it up, I saw a map of the United States in the book. Looks different with different names. There's a West Coast state, a mountain state, which isn't just empty territory; it's an actual like state or something. And then the North and the South and the East are two different things.
Huh.
I didn't bother to go dig into it or whatever, but yeah,
Interesting.
the book. I got to read the book at some point. Listen to the audio book because it seems like it's But that
All right. Next, we have to go to October 29th, 1994.
94. Is this Clinton?
Clinton. Francisco Martin Durand. And I have to resist the urge to say his name, Francisco. Because it's a ridiculous.
Durand?
Yes, Durand. D-U-R-A-N-D. Durand.
Okay.
Dressed in a black trench coat with a hat on, he approached the north lawn of the White House from outside the fence, just strolling about with an SKS-style rifle chambered in 7.62.
Ah, so a guy not using a pistol.
No, this is a
This is
Chinese
a
assault
rifle.
rifle.
Nice.
Yeah. I didn't find anything saying it was full auto, but I didn't find anything saying it wasn't. Yeah, so I have no idea how many rounds he got off. I have a strong suspicion that the Secret Service didn't want to say how many rounds he got off.
More than one and less than a million.
But yeah, he fired on a crowd of people in dark suits outside on the White House lawn. Not terribly weird. Clinton
Secret
was a
Service?
smoker. Clinton was a smoker. It was not unheard of in his off hours for him to just be chilling outside on the
duck
White House
out the door for a smoke.
It was almost a tourist attraction to see if you could come by and get a picture, and then you'd be approached by the Secret Service because even then they were watching shit on cameras.
Yeah,
But,
the ability to see the president outside for a smoke was a interesting thing.
And people liked Clinton. There's really
yeah.
no avoiding that. Clinton was very well loved while he was in office. His legacy has not aged well, but at the time.
Yeah.
And what seemed to spark this is that some passersby had remarked, "Hey, doesn't that one guy look like Clinton?" And this is based on witness testimony in the trial. This is not just hearsay. This is part of the documentation of this.
Somebody made a comment that
hey, that looks like Clinton.
And Durand figured this was his shot.
Well, this means one of two. There's only two possibilities here. Either that dude concealed carried an assault rifle just because.
Everywhere he went.
Just because. Or he had a solid plan to just wander around the White House until Clinton needed a cigar.
Possibility.
Yeah, like that. Those are the only two possibilities I can wrap my head around as to why this man even fucking exists.
Why the attempt even happened.
But he fires into the crowd. He does injure 4 federal agents.
Okay.
Which is also part of the reason I believe it's full auto. I think he just sprayed and that's what stayed on. I feel semi-auto would have been more accurate if they knew what they were doing.
But the president was not, in fact, there.
No. Anyone want to take a guess as to what Billy Boy was doing? It was so very American.
Is he on the shitter?
Having a steak dinner?
He was watching the football game.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, no, he was far too busy being the president of the goddamn United States of kick-ass. But, what's really great about this is you would think the Secret Service or, like, police or some sort of military agency would have rappelled off of the roofs and tackled this man. Nope, 3 private citizens. Just 3 people who are like, not my president! They tackled this guy, pinned him to the ground, kept him from firing his weapon until the Secret Service arrived and properly subdued him.
Yeah.
Once he was in custody and in trial, he tried to plead the insanity defense. You notice how often that seems to come up?
Yeah.
It kind of seems like a benchmark defense for killers. Or attempted
killing
killers.
elected officials is something crazy people tend to do.
Now, this was 1994, so
if
this
you
is...
can manage to get into an asylum instead of a prison, you're in different, yeah.
But this is 1994. Modern communication is totally available. I believe the internet exists in 94. I was 4 years old.
95.
I don't fucking know.
95.
Okay. I
defensive
don't know when Al Gore got it out to the mass market.
But there were things like TV
Your
and
size make me
reporters and
stronger.
things like that. So definitely easily obtained information and shared.
So what do you think the federal government did to try and back up? Or actually, his story. His defense is fucking brilliant.
Even more so than just I'm crazy?
Well, if you claim you're crazy, you then have to back it up with some crazy shit.
With why you're crazy.
He was defending the world from an alien mist that was being emitted from an umbilical cord to the mothership in the Colorado mountains. I don't know. He said the UFO was over Denver. I don't know what that has to do with the White House.
Yeah.
They aren't close.
But
at
it's
all.
not actually a bad argument if you're going for crazy.
Well,
aliens are great
back
if you're going to be crazy.
That's my point about modern telecommunications and resource gathering ability. What do you think the federal government did?
Did they send people to Denver?
No. They sent people to talk to his friends and neighbors and family. They conducted upwards of 60 interviews on this man
Of
to
people
determine,
who knew him.
giving fair shake to the idea of maybe this man is just that unstable. Because
But
I
they
think,
needed corroborating evidence.
Well, I feel there had to be one guy somewhere in the mechanism of this trial who was like, hey, maybe he was just carrying that shit, man. You don't know. The commies could be coming anytime. You don't know.
Probably.
But in fact, I'm guessing these
Although
interviews
he was using
showed
a commie
that
as fuck rifle. It was even Chinese made. Like,
I'm sure these interviews prove that no, he wasn't insane or unhinged.
Nope. But it did provide two key arguments against his insanity defense and pro the "you tried to shoot Bill" argument, and it's that he had an extreme dislike of the government and an exceptional hatred of Bill Clinton.
So this was not exactly out of character for him.
Oh, it was
to
completely
anyone
in character.
Okay.
Arguably, this was him chewing the scenery.
Okay.
They say why he didn't like Bill? This is pre Lewinsky scandal, I believe. So
Oh,
Yeah, I
definitely.
think so too.
Yeah. it was 97, I think.
Thought it was 96, but
Now-
you could be right.
I'm just gonna go out on a limb here. I don't have corroborating evidence, but this is my view of events and the individual. I think he was a right-wing militia nut job. I think you could compare him to a boog boy these days. Somebody who just had too many guns, too much ammo, and enough time to work themselves into a frenzy.
All right,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that explains the anti-government thing. But did he have anything, bill specifically?
Clinton did try to pass gun legislation.
The
Well,
the assault weapons ban.
Yeah.
Okay, that
Probably
makes sense.
had a lot to do
That
with
makes
it,
sense
yeah.
now.
Now-
That makes sense now.
Now, what's way more fun is that all of this is in the shadow of 6 weeks prior. Now, the reason this is so ridiculous that this got to where it did anyway, like, people should have been stationed around the White House. Like, this guy should have been tackled the second he pulled the rifle before
yeah.
a round got fired. 6 weeks prior, a drunk man crashed a Cessna onto the South Lawn. But that wasn't an assassination story, so we don't get to
That
talk
was just
about
poor piloting.
Yeah.
We don't get to talk about it. It's not an
Okay.
assassination story. That was just a drunk man crashing a Cessna.
Okay, so after this attempt, was there any lasting?
Well, the reason I bring up the Cessna is because it kind of gets lumped into this in the same time frame from the perspective of security of the president and the protocols in D.C. It changed a lot of things, and it expanded the security systems for the White House. They had more people
Okay.
outside the actual fences and walls openly monitoring things after this. And again, the only reason I bring up the Cessna is because it gets piggybacked onto this, because before that Cessna had happened, no one had considered the possibility of an aerial terrorist strike on the White House, like, at all. It had never crossed anyone's mind
Right.
in, like, intelligence briefings. So that, followed by a gunman just firing on the White House.
It definitely then changed their defensive strategies or whatnot.
It definitely escalated the security around the presidency. I mean, not to what we see now. A lot of what we see now is, reaction to 9/11 and extra
right.
paranoia there.
A lot
But-
more shit has happened since then.
You can see the baby steps we took before we started taking those larger steps down the road. You can
All right.
see where we got there.
And anytime a president gets shot at it,
Oh yeah, it causes
bumps
reform.
up the- yeah.
All right. Well, I've made a number of notes and whatnot for each of these guys.
I feel you can't score me properly until we go and investigate Denver.
We'll go ahead and start up at the top as I add these together. Now, for our listeners, that max score of 30 for a perfect assassination attempt that succeeded.
You know what's fucked up
Obviously,
about this?
none of these succeeded, so none
Hang
of
on.
them are going to be a perfect 30.
You know what's super fucked up about this?
Huh.
Now that we have a mathematic criteria, we're going to have to do an episode of successful assassinations.
For the same. Agreed.
yeah, I think we were probably going to end up doing that anyways.
I mean, probably. We're pretty fucked in the head.
Okay, starting at the top with Richard Lawrence. I gave him pretty good effectiveness, very low on complexity because he just kind of walked up and shot and attempted to shoot him. But Aftermath came out pretty decent. He ended up scoring a total of 17 points. Not bad.
Okay.
Lynette From was pretty medium in our first two encounters. And
Manson family member, I'd like to remind you.
Yes, but that didn't have anything really to do with this specific.
That's how she knew how to use a
Assassination.
gun, kinda.
Probably. But, yeah, very low on the Aftermath. She only ended up scoring an 11, and I think she's the lowest point here. The Wilkes Booth group and their attempt on Seward scored actually reasonably high across the board, came out with a total of 23. I think that puts them at our top score, but let me keep going down.
actual conspiracy.
Yeah, actual conspiracy.
That was partially successful.
Yeah, definitely the highest on the complexity level because it's a true conspiracy that they'd planned out. And definitely the highest,
I don't know,
one of the highest for
informant working
aftermath.
under the radar.
Well, and that's where our Miss Moore comes in. If it hadn't been for the bad sights, she probably would have shot Ford. That put her really high up on the effectiveness level, but in total, she ended up with 18. So still reasonably high for what we got. Giuseppe Zangara, again, pretty high on effectiveness. He shot at people and he hit 4 people and actually managed to kill the mayor. So he's scoring a 17. And our last one with Durand.
I do want to emphasize the 4 agents that were injured were not killed. They were injured.
Right. Well, and he scored pretty low on... He actually scored the lowest on effectiveness because while he did hit 4 agents, his actual target wasn't even there.
Time for some football!
That being said, I mean, he had a decent plan. He managed to smuggle an assault rifle to the White House.
Just in a trench coat.
Just in a trench coat. And aftermath was actually decent because, like you said, along with the Cessna thing, there were significant changes to
they were in the middle of a
after
reevaluation, and they got hit again.
And he's going to score a 14. So our Booth group definitely tops the chart with a whopping 23 points for success here.
I feel they're just piggybacking off of Lincoln's legacy, and that's bullshit. I feel they get at least 5 points out of Lincoln. That's
assassins. That's basically what assassins do: is piggybacking off of the legacy of the people that are trying to kill. That's just kind of part of the shtick.
Yeah, but we were talking about failures, and Lincoln is a success-ish for a few hours.
Well, and with that one, I mean, they
in
almost did get away. If a couple of bad mistakes didn't happen there.
Okay, by mistakes, are you talking about shooting through the barn or lighting it on fire? Which mistake are we getting to
I
here?
was going to go with wearing bloody clothing when you go back to your friend's house where the police are.
I'm still on both.
The lighting of the barn was intentional. Shooting him was not. Or rather, the guy who did it was shooting against orders. But the fire was totally intentional. They were trying to smoke him out. Yeah.
Right.
Hey, everything's made of wood.
On rats,
Fire's wood's friend, rat.
I mean, at that point, though, the guy was content with dying for his cause.
Yeah.
He didn't want to be taken alive at that point, so it was...
I don't think that's an excuse.
Well, I'm just saying nothing they were going to do was probably going to resolve that peacefully. He had his chance to surrender. Harold did. He wanted to go down. He was really because while they were he and Harold were on the run, they got a hold of some southern newspapers in Virginia, and he was shocked how people in Virginia were against him because they were mad at. No, we don't like the guy, but we hate him. But no, what you did was
still
crossing
wrong.
a line. They crossed the line, and we're gonna reap the whirlwind for your dumb actions, asshole.
All right. Well, I think that pretty comfortably rounds this out.
I feel I was cheated. I came with exotic and exciting stories,
and they were very good stories.
You knew what the criterion were going into this. You didn't bring your A game.
You can't stop me from binging. You know this.
I brought my A game.
All right, guys. This has been Informed and Confused. Remember to follow us on Twitter.
What's with the look?
This isn't over.
It'll just continue off the microphone. You'll want to give them our Twitter tag?
Informed and Confused on Twitter.com, @InfoConfused. Check out our updates bi-weekly. Check out our commentary on the general state of the world and the fun people in it.
And whatever I drunkenly post.
Yeah, that happens too. My favorite this past week was the face mask gun holster. That was my favorite one.
I still don't get it.
I'm still confused why the plan is to have a barrel pointing at your artery. Like...
I'd rather have a barrel pointed at my artery than down the front of my pants.
Well, I mean, like Robert Evans said is it even America if you don't have a barrel jammed in your neck?
I think I got it. I think I just figured it out. It's so when the deep state conspiracy finally comes for you, you can end your life and avoid capture as quickly as possible. The gun's right there.
I'm still confused how tight it has to be tied to his head, because that's still like a 2-pound piece of metal attached to the face mask, plus the weight of the holster. Like,
all right, well, I think we've devolved here. This has been Informed and Confused. I'm Ben.
I'm Alan.
I'm Nick.
Take it easy.
Next time on Informed and Confused.
No! Damn you, technology!
It's a conspiracy.
Yeah.
How wonderful
Ben
is this?
did research.
He has notes.
Admittedly, not a lot, but Ben did research today.
Are you proud of him, Alan?
Frankly, that's more unbelievable than the government conspiracy. Yes, I'm proud of our Ben.
Alan, will you condemn the CIA?
They broke the law and they did some fucked up shit. There you go. I said it.